No phones, no fire to scroll through except the real one, no one to text. So what did ancient humans actually do when they had nothing to do? You'd think the answer is simple. They didn't get bored. They were too busy surviving. Hunting, gathering, running from predators, staying alive from sunrise to sunset. That assumption turns out to be wrong, or at least wildly overstated. In the 1960s, anthropologist Richard Lee lived among the Juhuanci people of the Kalahari Desert, one of the last surviving hunter-gatherer groups on Earth. He expected exhausted people. Instead, he found something closer to a leisurely work week. Adults spent roughly 15 to 20 hours acquiring food. The rest of their time was open. To be clear, this is a modern group, not a window straight into the Ice Age. But it broke a long-held assumption, and it gave researchers a real place to start asking a much better question. If early humans weren't grinding every hour just to stay alive, what filled the empty ones? The first answer is almost disappointingly human. They talked.
Anthropologist Polly Wiesner recorded conversations among the Juhuanci and noticed a pattern. During the day, people mostly discussed practical things. Complaints, plans, who owed who what. But at night, gathered around the fire, the conversation changed completely. Stories took over. Myths, ancestors, tricksters, the origins of the world. Picture it. Firelight flickering across faces. Children half listening, half asleep. An elder mid-story, building toward the twist everyone's heard a dozen times but still leans in for.
These weren't just campfire tales for fun, although they were definitely that too. They were survival manuals disguised as entertainment. Where the water was, which plants would kill you, what happens to someone who lies to the group. Wrapped inside a story, that information stuck. But that wasn't the strangest part. Storytelling explains the evenings. It doesn't explain the days. And the days had something else going on entirely. Something you can still see written on cave walls.
Deep inside caves in France and Spain, tens of thousands of years old, are elaborate paintings of horses, bison, hands pressed against stone. Some of these caves required crawling through narrow passages by torchlight for hours just to reach. Nobody was hunting down there. Nobody was surviving down there. Someone simply had the time, the drive, and apparently nothing better to do than create something extraordinary in total darkness. Archaeologists have also found carved bone flutes over 40,000 years old, and shell beads traded across hundreds of miles for no reason except decoration.
None of it fed anyone. None of it fought off a predator. It just existed because somebody's idle hands went looking for something to do, and what they found was art. And this is where things get interesting, because it wasn't only the adults filling their time this way. Psychologist Peter Gray has studied play in modern hunter-gatherer societies for decades. And again, this is modern evidence used carefully, not a time machine into prehistory. What he found was that children in these groups are rarely directed by adults. They're left to invent their own games, mix freely across ages, negotiate their own rules. No coaches, no curriculum, just hours of open time and other kids to fill it with. Gray argues this unstructured play is where real skills got built. Cooperation, risk assessment, creativity. Not from a lesson, from boredom, turned into a game. Add music to the picture too. Dancing around fires wasn't just celebration. Anthropologists studying group rituals have found that synchronized movement, chanting, drumming, tends to bond a group together on a level that talking alone doesn't quite reach.
A tribe that danced together, quite possibly, stuck together. So line it all up. Talking, storytelling, art, play, music. None of these were forced. Nobody scheduled them. They emerged again and again out of the same raw material. Time with nothing assigned to it. That raises a much bigger question. Why would evolution build a creature that gets restless the second nothing is happening? Psychologists John Eastwood and James Dankert, who study boredom today, describe it as a kind of internal alarm. Not emptiness for its own sake, but a signal, pushing you towards something more engaging than whatever you're currently doing. Almost like hunger, except instead of pointing you toward food, it points you towards stimulation. For a hunter-gatherer, that restlessness had a purpose. A bored mind wandering the camp might notice a new plant, try shaping a tool differently, wander slightly farther, and find new water. The itch wasn't a flaw. It was quietly useful. You inherited that exact same itch. The difference is what happens the moment you feel it. Your ancestors sat with boredom because there was nothing else to do. The feeling had to run its course, and somewhere in that discomfort, a story got told, or an idea got tested. You don't have to sit with it at all. The instant it appears, a screen is right there to erase it. In 2014, psychologist Timothy Wilson ran an experiment where people were left alone in a room with only their thoughts, or a button that gave them a mild electric shock. A striking number of people, mostly men, chose to shock themselves rather than sit quietly for 15 minutes by a fire most nights of their lives. Which brings us back to where we started. No phones, no screens, nothing to do. It turns out that's exactly the condition that built half of what makes us human. The stories, the art, the music, the games. All of it grew out of empty hours nobody knew what to do with. The bored mind isn't a broken one. It's the same restless machinery that once carved a flute out of bone and painted a horse on a cave wall. Next time you're stuck somewhere with nothing to do and that itch creeps in, remember what it's actually capable of building.